my wife, who's an artist too, Angie, we did a mural at our church in Santa Fe, and it was probably about 7 feet high and about 25 feet wide.
Dude, you both did it?
Yeah. And so I kind of went in and like detailed everything, but I came up with a sketch, a simplified sketch. And I'm like, a 25-foot painting, how that would take me the rest of my life.
It would take you the rest of your life.
But I did it in 2.5 days. And she was like, wow, imagine if you could do a big painting in 2.5 days. I'm like, yes. And it looks a lot like one of my paintings. It doesn't have that same, it didn't have that same
translucency.
Yeah. All those veils of color, And so, but somewhere in there's an in between, I thought, for doing larger work, larger scale work. And so anyway, it was a great learning experience.
And so would you try that in the future? Go, okay.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm kind of waiting for a little break in in what I have to do.
Right.
Because I don't want to like do some funky experiment and then bring it for you at the show and go, hey, look.
What do you think?
Yeah. Hey. And so,
but that's okay actually, because sometimes I think it's a good thing because you can get feedback.
Yeah.
And see what kind of, from not only the gallerist, but clients and things. And,
see what,
or even if they notice.
Right.
They may not even,
because sometimes they probably don't.
No,
I'm sure
most times they don't.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of times I'm doing things that only I notice,
Yeah.
And
I guarantee you.
Yeah. And I know because, I'll show them, before I release anything, I'll also show the finished painting to Angie. And sometimes she'll point out something that's glaringly obvious that I've missed all the time, and other times she's like, stop touching this thing,
right?
And it's just like, it is done. And
do you use a mirror at all to show it in the mirror behind to see if there's
anything? I don't, but what I'll do is I'll take a picture of it on my phone, and sometimes looking at it just on the phone,
yes,
I can notice something like, well, that seems kind of off, or something needs to be changed. And so I'll usually just get her feedback, and I do the same thing for her, and just to get another set of eyes on it, because I'll have looked at it so much that you can miss something.
Yeah, you can't tell. Yeah, it's like a writing.
Right.
You write something and you go and you read it 100 times, and it just seems right, and then somebody else goes, I don't get it.
Right.
And I was like, what? What do you mean?
No doubt.
I was like, oh, that's trouble.
Yeah.
That's real trouble.
And then sometimes there's things that I'm really concerned about. I'm like, do you see anything? And they're like, nope. And I'm like, okay. And then I know it's just me,
Yeah, and that does happen. I had an artist who was not going to give me a painting. They were showing me a little part that they didn't care for just like, it was a technical thing.
Yeah.
I said, no one's going to notice that.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that painting was sold. I sold it. Because it's so, when you're a technician as well, and you are as an artist, you're looking so closely at these little things that it starts to bother you, and you think it must bother other people.
Right.
Reality is, if a dealer or a wife or anyone else goes, no, that's a nothing burger. Right. Don't touch it. Just
absolutely
bring it in. You're going to mess it up.
And that can be, that's like the black hole you can go into. Because you can get caught up in, and I know I do that sometimes, especially with my process. It can even getting the idea onto the panel, ready to paint, is this, other artists have looked at it and they're like, man, what, you're going through all that too. And it's almost, I guess, a way of thinking visually for me, but I know that I could have probably just drawn this out on the panel and been done with it and saved myself, 6 hours or whatever, and just gotten out painting it.
I think the only way you can do it is try it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So, and maybe, I thought about, okay, after the mural project, I thought, maybe I'll take a large canvas and try something on canvas and not focus so much on the intricacy of what I do right now, and still have it look the same way, and figure that out, and but still, the conception and the visual movement and everything, that'll all be there. But maybe I'll reduce some of the other things that are there, and just the way I present those on a panel. You know?
I can tell you it'll work.
Yeah. Okay. All right, well, I'll give it a.
It'll work, and
okay.
Very few people will be able to tell the difference.
Yeah.
Except you.
Right.
I think you're a very structured person. I can tell. I mean, structure is incredibly important too.
It's true story.
Yeah. And so it's allowing yourself again to go, okay, just like when you went to Wyoming.
I thought about it before you said it. Yep. It's breaking away from that thing,
that comfort level to some extent.
Yeah, it is.
You know, the thing you've put on since you're 40 years, right?
Right.
Those kind of things, right? Because it's how you do it.
That is so true.
But one of the issues for you is that you are methodical and a slow painter. We don't, you know, there's not a lot out there. Yeah. Now that's a double-edged sword. It's good for collectors,
right?
In the sense there's not a ton out there, and they're, you know, so there's not going to be flooded to the market. You're not going to see these come out for auction and things probably ever or very rarely.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you got to make a living too.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, if I don't want to say overwork them, because it's not, because they're perfect. But if you allow yourself, I think, again, I'm not an artist, but I'm a creative person. I think if you allow yourself to just go, okay, let me try this.
Yeah.
I bet you'll succeed. You've succeeded at everything else you've done.
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
So why wouldn't this succeed as well?
You know what?
Church did.
I'll give it a try.
Right.
Yeah.
That one worked.
Yeah. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
No.
Right. It did. And it looked good, you know? And it's probably a little bit of that, just saying, you know what? And I was in a hurry. I'm like, I gotta get this thing done.
Right.
I gotta, you know.
And it's not for sale.
Right. It's just, yeah.
You're doing it as out of your heart.
Yep. And when I did it, I was gonna go back one more day, okay, and I'm gonna go, and I told Angela, I'm gonna go back one more day, and she's like, "What are you gonna do?" And I said, "Well, I'm gonna work on it's got a saguaro in it, believe it or not, and I'm gonna work on that cactus some more." She goes, "No, you are not. You are not. It is done.
Yeah,
that you won't do anything to that cactus that anybody is gonna notice." And I'm like. I said, well, it's just, and it was almost like saying, okay, I just got to release this thing. It's done.
Yeah, that's right.
And when I first, I drew it out, just freehanded on the wall. And then I went through and used masking tape to mask everything off, because of course that's what I'm used to.
Right. I get it.
And she looked at me and she's like, "What are you doing?" She had gone to run a couple of errands. She came back and full on masking everything off. She's like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, this will make it easier to, put in the sky and everything." And then it really didn't.
Right.
And then she's like, "Okay, whatever." And but that, I look back and I'm like, I could have probably just skipped that part altogether.
Yeah.
So I did. So
yeah.
Just I'll try something
too.
I
actually will say this. I would actually like you to do something like that for my show.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Well, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
So, because it might change things, even how you approach and see it might be better. Who knows? I mean, and if it saves you time and allows you to do more, because, I know it takes forever for you to do your paintings.
Yep.
And I think a lot of that, and it works. And that's the thing that's hard, because you know it works, and they sell.
Right.
And also people go, "We love these."
Yeah.
And they are on covers of magazines.
Right. And it's like, okay, why fix what ain't broke? And so it's like, and so I get into that kind of that struggle with that. It's like, well, I don't want to change it too much, because
very hard for all artists.
Yeah. And it's
very hard.
And it's just, it's a reality, if you didn't have to worry about it, then that would be easy. But,
sometimes I think you just have to not worry about it.
Right.
Because, and realize I'm successful, I'm creative. And it'll be fine. People will respond if I like it. Yeah, it just has to. If you're the thing, if you like it,
right.
I mean, when Ed started doing flowers, people were like, "What?"
Right. And those are cool paintings.
Yeah, because he got tired of doing landscapes and he wanted to do something else.
Right.
And he just said, "I'm gonna do these." And
I think it's good too. You look at an artist's repertoire and you want to see more than just one thing, or I do. It's just you can't just do 20 of the same things for a show.
Right.
And that's a hard thing, because you also, you want to do stuff that there's a market for too. I mean,
of course, you're in a business and you have to pay all the stuff.
Right.
And people that are out there listening that are clients that are buying, remember that.
Right.
These individuals eat on your sales, right? Literally.
That's true. Yeah, no, it's, and it's, and the whole comfort thing, I have gotten to a point where where I do have a comfort level around, okay, you know what, this is going to be okay. Where, you know, maybe when I first started it,
I'm
panic
sure.
attack.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's like, my God, what am I going to do? And, but now it's like, you know what, it's really going to be okay. And so, and you know, I know that I just need to, for me, the last few months is I was creating things and just holding them. And then I'm like, and of course I dropped them off down here, and it's like, it's great to just release them and just get them out of my studio, out of our house, you know, so that
you don't work on them anymore.
Well, exactly, yeah, and they were kind of just sitting all in a row in one of the rooms in our house, and so I would go in and look at them like, and one of them, you know, just the other morning, and it was in the frame and everything, and I'm like, I'm not going to say which one it is because, you know, but I'm like, what do you think of this little spot right here? I showed it to Angela, and she's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, and I was ready to take it back to the studio and be like, okay, I'm just going to, but so now it's like over and done with. It's out.
I think when you recognize that's, I think the word issue is right, but it's a issue.
It's a quirk.
Yeah, it's a quirk, whatever you want to call it. When you recognize it and when you know you have it, that's the main thing. And then you go, okay, you know, I think Angie's probably your best, you know, sounding board.
Oh, absolutely.
She's seen everything. She knows everything.
Yeah.
Right. Know, when she says, yeah, you're good. You're good. And this is not just you, by the way. This is almost all artists have this problem.
Right. Yeah.
Because, and I mean, really exceptional artists. I'm not going to name names, but I've had this conversation with them. And they don't, it's hard to let it go because again, you're giving your whole life, your emotion, everything in this painting.
You're completely exposed.
You're completely exposed.
Whether people realize that.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what makes the, that, and I do the same thing for her. You know, I look at, you know, she'll always show me her work and say, what do you think? And we'll kind of go through it. And, you know, you have to be, you know, honest with each other. And you know, and she's always that way with me. Not everything's always perfect or great or anything like that. And there's paintings that I think are, this is the best thing I've ever done. And she's like, you know, I don't like that one at all. And it's just like, and that's part of, and that's a good lesson in humility, you know, and it really is. And it really, and if you listen, it'll make you better. You know, I think it will anyway. And, of course. And so it's great, and it's great to hear that all the other artists struggle with it too.
I guarantee you they do.
Yeah,
names you'd be like, what?
Yeah,
they do. I get it.
Yeah,
right. It's you know, it's there's so many components of that painting. It's not. I mean, yes, it's a business. Yes, it makes money, but to get to that point is an emotional connection with that piece. That it's like. When I write a book, you know, it's, I want it out there. I'd like people to like it, but most importantly, I want to like it.
Right.
You know, even if no one else does. And then if you get it out there and no one likes it, but as long as you like it, it's okay.
Right.
You know?
You have to be happy with it.
You have to.
It's like when I look at a painting, I'm like, well, you know, I'd hang it as long as, you know, I'd hang it in my house, I guess it's fine, you know. And it goes back to this moment goes back to the moment, you know, like you enjoy the moment. And it's like there's these paintings that I'm working on right now that you don't really think about the moment because you're like, well, I gotta like do this excuse me, when I get back. And you get so or anyway I do, you get so immersed in that you don't kind of, maybe that's a bad thing because you don't enjoy the moment, you know. Or
let me tell you, I think a lot of artists don't enjoy many moments when it's a struggle or whatever.
Right.
And I'll shout out to Stephen Datz because I think he would be okay with me telling him. But there are times when he is like just flustered and angry with what's not working in his mind because he is also a perfectionist.
Yeah, no, his paintings are beautiful.
And you can look at it. You see the paintings. They are, and he's a slow artist too.
Yeah, okay. And there's one right there.
Yeah, that's one I've sent, and I loved it. And I said, I'm going to buy that and keep it.
Yeah.
And it's a great painting.
It is.
And it's not big, but it's terrific.
Yep. Well, and that's another thing, because the and this is a frequent discussion in our house about painting larger paintings. And for me, you know, one of my all-time favorite paintings as a kid was The Persistence of Memory by Salvador Dali, which is a little painting. And so I've always been like, you can paint a small painting, but it can have a big presence.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so things bigger isn't always better, but I also recognize the fact that it helps to paint larger work to present it in just a different arena.
Right.
You know,
like for museums, they need they need larger work.
They need a larger piece.
And certain houses need larger works. They don't understand smaller works.
Yeah. And it's also, I think, when you do it and you do it right, it comes off. It's such a powerful statement to do something larger. So that's always an ongoing goal for me to work larger.
After walking in here, there was just all these opportunities that just kind of kept lining up, like magazine articles, like from Western Art Collector, Southwest Art, Western Art and Architecture. And from one of those magazines, you know, and they reached out saying, you know, we're following what you're doing. You want to do a small feature, you know, something like that. And then I, you know, so that kind of, I noticed like the emails and people that were looking at my website from those articles, you know, started to flow in. And soon after, I got a call from McLary Gallery in Santa Fe. And
excellent gallery.
So yeah, great gallery. So, you know, as like another gallery for representation. And yeah, I've been getting into shows that I kind of like, again, like kind of dreamed about doing, and I just
like the Coors show,
like Coors, yeah,
which you won an award.
I won Artist Choice, which is
the best.
That's such an honor because I really didn't know how I was going to stand out with these like really accomplished artists. You know, some artists that have been heroes of mine, and I just didn't know. You know, being like my first time into the show, not really sure. And then it's great because like the Artist Choice, you don't like, it's not like, you know, opening night that, you know, because everyone puts in their vote.
Right.
And, like when I got the email that, you know, that I had won that, it just meant so much to me that like that these artists, my peers, you know, responded to my work and can see the work I put into it. You know, other painters can see in a different way. And so
different way.
Yeah. So that meant.
Was that your first show at the Coors?
Yes.
Yeah. So you won.
Yeah, last year was my first year, and I won the award, and nearly sold out. I sold everything, but like one small painting, and
now that's run by Kate, right?
Yeah,
who's doing a marvelous job. I think it's going to be
it's
a spectacular show.
Yeah, great to be in that show. Everything's crystal clear, and it's just wonderful. So this year will be my next year. Yeah.
So you have that. You won that award. McLary picks you up. And you also have a show in a museum, right, in California.
Oh, well, yeah.
I forgot about that one.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been doing Small Works, Great Wonders at the National Cowboy Museum for a few years. And then, I did a show. It was actually on the college campus of College of the Desert.
That was the one, yeah.
But it was a show of 100 years of landscape painters, painters painting the Mojave or California or, you know, the lesser known to the West. So like John Hilton and Jimmy Swinnerton, who I love.
Did they have a Dixon in there or not?
They didn't have a Dixon, no.
He painted it.
Oh, yeah,
Just finding them is not the easiest.
Right.
They should have come to me. I could have told them where one is.
Yeah. Oh, that, yeah. Like even Conrad Buff and and so had all these historic painters and then mixed in with contemporary painters also, and that was just kind of feel like you're a part of this legacy of like
you are actually.
At least like 100 years of people who thought this part of the desert was important and should have a voice in Western art or and so just so well curated. It was beautiful.
Plus you live there.
And I live there, and
that's a big deal, by the way, I think. I mean, for me, that was like, oh, she lives in the desert and has for like 10 years. That was for me commitment that I saw first of all, I think you have to live in the desert to understand the desert. I don't know what you think about that, but I do think that's true to really understand it and be around it and, you know, just everything about that land.
Yeah. I mean, the desert has subtle beauty sometimes, you know, and you have to be very sensitive to light shifts and weather and for me as a landscape painter, any place I want to paint, I have to spend time there to understand what it's saying, you know, what the land is saying. And yeah, being there and having sort of like finding my own voice through what the land is saying, which is kind of odd, but
no,
you know,
not at all.
Yeah, paying attention to clouds and times a day, and it's all outside of my studio. So I've been focusing on painting the mountain range, the Sheep Hole Valley mountain range that is just right outside my studio. And I can paint it over and over because
it's always different.
I mean, it's
like the Catalanas.
Yeah. And
Dixon painted it a ton. Yeah, because he saw different things all the time.
Yeah.
You know, just the way the sky is, the light, the whatever, you know.
Yeah. I mean, and I need to broaden my understanding of landscape even because I know Mojave, you know, but when I have to paint green, I'm just like, I don't know what this is. I have no idea. You know,
you do it very nicely.
Well, you know, it's a challenge for me. Yeah. Or painting a tree. I don't have trees where I live. So.
But you do beautiful saguaros.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you also go and camp in the saguaros, so you have a good understanding of them.
I spend a few days when I'm gathering reference, whether it's plein air painting or photos. I spend some time there.
Yeah.
So I know, like, you know, hearing owls at night. So I, you know, seeing what's blooming. So I have an idea of what the whole ecosystem is.
Well, I think I mean, it's just like now the Mexican free-tailed bats, they left yesterday, the day before yesterday, actually. They're gone. You know, not too cold. You know? We were talking about the rattlesnakes. They're all in their, you know, little hidey holes in their dens. Pretty much as for us, about yesterday or day before, and same with you.
Yeah.
In Mojave.
Yeah, the temperature's around the same.
Yeah, I mean, they'll still come out when, you know, it's interesting with rattlesnakes. I've seen that they'll come out even in the dead of winter around here because the climate has changed. It's more warm. They may just be around their den and come out for a little bit and go back in. But I have seen that even in like January and February. Yeah. Which is rare.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
I've seen that too. In February. Just see what snack they can get before they go back in.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. One of those days it hits. I mean, we're doing this November 1st, but it was 99 like 5 days ago or something. So I must have been 100 where you were. Yeah, no,
it stayed in the 90s. It didn't break up to 100. But
we were almost 100.
Yeah, and then dipped down into the 40s the next week at night, you know.
Have you ever tried nocturnal painting at all? Yeah. I can't remember if you have or not.
Yeah, I spend a lot of time outdoors at night also. So I feel like my knowledge, and I try to see what colors I can see under moonlight. And see how sophisticated my eyes can be.
It's really difficult.
And I mean, painting night, it feels like anything goes. Because I mean, I've seen bright nights with no moon. And there's no light pollution where I live. I can't explain it. Like, why can I see all this color? Why is it so blue? Why, there's no moon tonight.
Might be you.
It could be. But then, maybe in the next night after, it's different. Yeah. So the night is mysterious in the way that color and light and change, atmosphere can change so much. Yeah. It's kind of, there's a spooky quality to it because you don't understand it,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Glenn Dean and Josh Elliott are just so good at that.
Yeah.
And I've watched Elliott paint at night. It's just incredible to see how you do it. I mean, it's not, for him at least, he has a light little headset on, light, off, on, off, on. Yeah. Do you do that too?
Well, I have one piece in the Young Guns show that I made a plein air study at Superstition Mountains.
Yes.
And I was painting by the light of the restroom at the campground because I'm like, this is enough. And it was illuminating the saguaro. And I thought, this is perfect. The moon was coming up over the ridge. And I was kind of struggling, but I'm like, I got this,
Yeah.
you know? And then a camper came up. He's like, hey, I have a gift for you. And he gave me his headlamp.
Yeah.
He's like, it's broken. I have another one. Just you keep it. I think it might help. And of course, you know,
Right.
once I put that on, I could see what I was doing.
Yeah.
It totally helped the painting.
Yeah, that's so much. Yeah.
So then I made a larger version for the show.
Yeah. And which one is that? It's a Sora?
Yeah, it's a swara with a full moon, and you just see the outline, the
okay.
silhouette ridge of superstitions.
10 paintings just came in, and I saw
Yeah.
these 30 minutes ago.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm still absorbing what was in there.
Mhm.
So-
And there's a couple nocturne florals.
Yeah.
And then other pieces with moons, but kind of in that transitory
Yeah,
time.
that moon one, the big
Yeah.
moon one, that may be my favorite painting.
Mine too.
Yeah, it just
That one's
nailed the moon,
I mean,
which
I've
is a
been-
really hard thing to do, by the way, folks. If you're going to paint it, be able to do it before you do it.
Well, I mean, I thought this was ridiculous. This is a huge moon
Yeah,
in
then
this
we've had it.
painting. But when you do see it come up in the desert,
It's different.
it's so big.
Yeah.
I mean,
It was that supermoon we had not too long ago, right?
yeah.
Yeah, I remember it coming up. I was out in the desert at night.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this is like a flashlight that
Right.
was on.
That's the title of the painting. All that I see is because I can't see anything else but this giant moon.
Yeah, it was so
it
bright.
feels, you know, it feels significant. So I wanted
Yeah.
the painting to do that.
Yeah.
And so
That was when the comet was doing its thing
yeah.
too.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
out.
So I was out trying. As soon as the moon came up, I was like, well, there goes the comet.
Yeah.
But even here, I mean, even though we're in a big metropolitan city, we're pretty careful about light.
Mhm.
And yeah, you could see the comet walk. It must have been great where you were too.
Yeah.
I was just like, holy moly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
great to see, and just catching it
Did-
before it got too dark, you
Yeah,
know, and there's
yeah.
enough sunlight
Yep.
kind of reflecting
was like
off of it.
30 to 40 minutes, you could see it.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think, I should try to paint this?
Yeah, I mean, I love comets. I was born with the passing of Halley's Comet.
Oh, wow.
And so, you know,
Yeah,
I have
I get
some-
it. You and
yeah,
Mark Twain.
me and Mark Twain. Yeah.
Mhm. Hopefully you'll be just like Mark Twain.
Maybe I'll die when it
Yeah,
comes
exactly.
again. Was that 76 years?
Something like that.
That's not enough years. I want to paint longer than that.
Yeah, but
I'm painting
you
to my
can't
80s.
predict it.
I know. It might come and take me. 76 is that's enough years.
Yeah.
I thought of it. I thought, how would I interpret this? And you know, a comet can kind of
Really hard thing.
yeah,
to paint.
it's like if you can get away with it in
Yeah.
a way that feels like maybe subtle or impactful or
Right.
something, not just like, you know,
Right. Here's the comet.
fantastic,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, because it is such a subtle thing.
Mm-hmm.
It is so fleeting. And I would think trying to get that gradation of that light, which is, just that orangey light that's hard to capture, even with almost impossible to capture with a phone or a camera,
Mm-hmm.
would be hard, very hard to capture as an artist.
Yeah. The
You're-
light, that part, I mean, that would be exciting. And
Yeah,
that
I
part,
would
it
think,
feels, yeah.
That's the mastery of it, right?
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
to try and get that strange,
It's very complex.
yeah, that
It really
it's like
is.
yellow to purple or
Yeah.
orange, like you're going opposite colors
Yeah.
and not make some muddy color in between.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like, the comet, you can actually see better in your peripheral, and that kind of like,
Right.
if you can have that effect in a painting would be great. But yeah, maybe I'll try it someday.
You probably did you take photos?
Well, I couldn't get a really good photo. I have an old phone.
I'll
But,
send you a
mean,
photo that's
okay.
pretty
Yeah.
decent, I think. I could catch. I thought it was okay. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sat out
Cool.
there most nights watching that.
Same.
That's
Yeah.
just
I had a little baby sidewinder find me when
that's
I
so
was
cool.
out there barefoot looking at the comet. Uh-oh.
The barefoot I wouldn't do just for the
Well,
cacti.
I mean, when you're in the desert enough, you're like, I'm good. I can see. And then
Yeah.
a tiny sidewinder comes up to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did it just come up while you were
Yeah, no.
next to you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, and I ran and grabbed my boots and a broom and I shoved it off.
Yeah, go away,
But
little sidewinder.
No, it was fighting the broom and it was mad. So aggressive.
Yeah, well, he didn't want. He wanted to be next to you.
Well, yeah, the house was warm.
Yeah.
All the brick is
Yeah,
finding.
exactly. You're warm too.
Yeah. but don't come in the house.
Yeah.
Did not want to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, have you had any snakes come in the house?
No.
Yeah.
Lots of lizards.
Yeah, I see those all the time.
Lots of big whiptails, and
cool?
they just kind of come in and come and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
But, you know.
I like those things. For me, that's a gift. So
I have scorpions in the house and vinegar, so if the lizards are in, hopefully the lizards are eating the scorpions in the house. So
yeah, see, I leave all spiders alone in my house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't eject them. They are like, go do your thing. Find the moths and whatever else that might be there. There must be stuff because they seem to be very happy.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
People that are listening to this are going, these people are
desert people.
That's what it is actually. Is if you are a desert person, you know, when you see a large tarantula, your first thought is, oh, I want to put my hand out so I can walk on it. I mean, they're just so beautiful. And and they won't hurt you.
Oh no, they're just a fuzzy animal, really.
Yeah.
No, they're so neat and so special to see. Yeah.
Do you get many of those out there in Mojave?
Yeah, right around this time of year, right in fall, they come through. But I don't see them like a whole lot.
Yeah.
I think I've seen 2 this season.
Yeah. That's about what I've seen. Maybe a few more.
Mm-hmm.
I have a bunch of the tarantula hawks, the little they're huge.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of milkweed things there, and I see them all the time. And I watched one once actually dragging a tarantula.
Really?
Like a long way, hundreds of yards.
Crazy.
It was so amazing to watch, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you feel bad for the tarantula, but at the same time, it's like,
well, yeah, nature's
it's you know,
doing its thing.
Yeah, they're doing their thing. And I filmed it for, 40 minutes just watch it. Yeah, just my head right next to the tarantula and just what was going not to be the tarantula anymore.
Yeah.
And then he took off and he went and got her nest ready, I guess, and then flew back in and had to find it. And there it is, and off I go. Started dragging again.
And they devour
so they don't devour them. They just
blood?
They just put the eggs inside the tarantula, and that's when it comes out. That's their food source.
Gotcha.
So yeah, people are going to go, wow, this is really dark.
Well,
podcast, but it's not. It's about happiness.
We could start a nature channel.
Yeah, we were meditating as we started.
Yeah,
which was very positive.
And it all has to do with landscape painting too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all connected.
So started working with galleries.
Yeah.
Didn't have any transition between my school years and working with galleries, which was really awesome.
Yes.
And the gap artists usually have between their studies and becoming professional came later when I decided to go more and more towards fine art. The interest, like the contemporary galleries would tell me like, yeah, the client said it's beautifully painted, but it's just not enough contemporary. Not enough contemporary.
Right, because you're going traditional and they want contemporary.
So selling less and less to the point where I was not selling at all.
Yeah.
Had to came back to my parents for some time. And this was pretty frustrating because it started like so well.
Right.
And due to my choice of following something that I feel is more right with my heart, I felt like economically speaking, it was like going down.
Yeah.
So I was a little torn, like, did I do the right move or not? But at the same time, I was like, I feel like my potential could be expressed so much better in this area. So let's see. And that's where at some point I discovered the American market. And
how old were you at that time? Like 26?
Later, I was 29.
29. So you gave it a long go from when you graduated to the galleries and doing this. Starting out with this more impressionistic with some traditional put in, and then you just kept moving more to the traditional.
Exactly. I spent a year in Morocco also directing in art school. So career was a little bit imposed back then. And then I started again. When I discovered the States, I just turned 30. It was late 2018, I think, something like this.
And you did something in China too, right?
Oh yeah. I studied in China there. After I graduated from a master's degree in Belgium, one of my best friends went to China to study Chinese painting, and I said, okay, let's go there and get inspired. And I ended up staying a year. Yeah.
Yeah. And do you think that was helpful?
So terms of art, China didn't leave much of a print on my art. But in terms of new experiences, living on a total different planet and having their intake on their art philosophy, this definitely helped. Yeah. But visually speaking, you cannot really tell I went to China, for instance. Yeah. So it's more of a mindset and their approach to art, which was pretty fueling. But in terms of pure aesthetics, not too much.
So you do that, then you go back, you're doing your galleries.
Exactly.
Things go back down. You got to go back home to mom and dad.
Yeah. This was frustrating as hell.
I'm sure, yeah.
And back then, so I'm at my home, and I'm at a home place, like a mom and dad's home.
Yes.
And my mom tells me that she has one of her very close friends. She's American and she's living in France since like dozens of years. And she tells me that she has to go to LA to do a conference, or I don't know what, with her work. And my mom said, I remember you telling me that you were discovering American painters, and maybe that would be a good opportunity to just go check the vibe and the people. And I said, yeah, that's a good idea. So a few days later, I was in a plane with Michelle. I was totally broke back then, but she was renting an Airbnb. Right. And the deal with her is she was bringing her kids, and I would stay for free and everything with her, but I would take care of her kids from time to time when she has to work, a babysitter.
You're a babysitter?
I said, perfect, let's do it.
Yeah.
So I arrived in LA, and I contacted Arcadia back then.
Yeah.
Steve was in Arcadia, Los Angeles.
Yes.
He moved to New York, Arcadia, then back to New York now. And I was sending him emails from France, and he was always like, thanks, but no thanks. So sending like props to him, because he would like send big emails explaining me everything in detail, what he thinks he's good, what he thinks, I should keep working, the direction I should take, and so on. So really taking the time to answer me carefully, but in the end, not yet. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna just meet him in person. So one day I land with the plane, stay at the Airbnb, and then just go to Arcadia in Pasadena.
Yeah.
Just knock, see a guy. I said, like, hopefully he's there. There's nothing on the wall. They're switching shows. Right. So I'm like, it's the worst timing. They're probably closed. I'm like, yeah. So I say, hey. I said, I'm Mathieu. He says, Mathieu who? And I see that he doesn't recall, he doesn't know who, doesn't remember me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, we talked on the internet, blah, blah. You said, like, it's nice, but not yet. But thanks for answering, like, consistent emails. And he said, oh, okay. So he still doesn't remember me. But he's like, you came from France all the way. I said, yeah. He said, okay, so let's go in the basement. I'll show you like the next show, because you came from so far.
Right.
Let me show you something.
Right.
And then I'm in the storage. I see all the works, and I'm a nerd, a painting nerd. So I go like super up close and look at everything.
Right.
And I think he sees that I'm really like into it, like and he goes like, show me again your work. And I show him the painting, and he says, oh, yes, now I remember you.
Yes.
And then he looks at me like this, and he said, you know what? Do me 2 pieces for a group show this summer.
Yeah.
And I said, awesome. So I go back in the Airbnb. I'm super happy. Like, I came from France, just like knocking at the door.
Right.
Come back with a show. So I'm like, it's worth it. Met so many artists meanwhile who introduced me, to the scene and everything. It was a great trip. Came back in France, worked my ass off, sent the 2 paintings, pre-sold before the show opened.
Nice.
So that's how the American journey started. Yeah.
And what were the images of those?
So, I did a big boy on horse back then. Yes. It was inspired by a trip I had in India. I did a residency there.
Yes.
So a guy on his horse on the beach, and decided to paint it, but changing pretty much everything. But just that's where the inspiration came from. Piece was like super big, like 3 meters long, and Steve asked me to do a smaller version of it.
Yes.
And another one was I invented a scene which was more orientalistic, so influenced by like Delacroix, Morocco, and so on. A guy in front of a like big carved mosque door with like details everywhere, feeding some pigeons.
Mm-hmm.
So these were the works.
Very tight stuff, right?
Super crisp and very small works.
Yeah.
The idea was to do kind of like the Flemish painters, like small works, but like super fine. Super crisp and detailed. Yeah.
And so you're doing that. So you're living in LA, right? At this girl's Airbnb still at that time?
Yeah, but it was only 2 weeks, so I had a very short amount of time trying to, make the most out of it.
Something happened, yeah. So you have to go back to France.
So I went back to France, but meanwhile, Michelle had to go back.
Yes.
And a friend from my hometown connected me with, she lived in the States back then. She connected me with an artist friend who was a roommate back then. So I ended up in West Hollywood at his place and for a few more days.
Right.
And we go at his friends on an evening for dinner. And the man speaks French. He was, I think, from Algeria or something like this. And he tells me, like, if one day you want to move in the States, you need to contact this lawyer. She's the best, the immigration attorney. I said, okay, I take the name. Then I come back to France, and I'm like, let's give her a call. We never know. And she says, okay, send me your CV. You're an artist, so we're going to see what we can do. And it turns out that with the CV I had, she says you can do an EB1 petition, which is the petition for like sportsmen, scientific people, artists and everything. It's basically petitioning for yourself. So obtaining a green card without anyone employing you. You need to show that you have enough prizes, enough recognition, like press articles, all these kind of things that makes America, that you would be a plus to the States, right? So I was super stoked. I was like, wow, we can do this. She said, yeah, you have like shows, articles, stuff like that, press release. So we built a folder for like nearly a year and it was approved, got my green card, just like in a dream. Everything was so perfect. And then my wife and I, moved to the States.
Yeah. And that was in 2018?
A year and a half ago.
Even less. So, so 2022 or so?
Yeah, we were in Long Beach since a year and a half.
Yes.
And we were here prior to that. But Julie didn't have her visa yet, so we were back and forth.
And she's an artist as well.
She's an artist as well.
Yes, a very good artist. Yeah.
Oh man, she's amazing. Yeah.
She has lots of people. I noticed she had like 100,000+ people on Instagram.
Yeah, she's super popular.
And you do have a lot on Instagram too yourself.
Yeah.
How did you develop all those followers?
So through time, and right now I'm in kind of a little worried about this sometimes because I'm switching to Western.
Right.
And my followers are more like towards the kind of illustration and all these kind of imaginary worlds I was doing before. So I've built an audience through time with this, and now I'm like switching to Western, and I hope they're gonna follow. So let's see.
And even if they don't, we'll get all the Western people to follow.
Exactly. I'm like, there's just new people who come in and so on. So to answer your question, first I took the axis of trying to be very serious in art, and when I talk about art and do art, but being more fun when I am talking, face camera or something.
Right.
I've noticed that at least in Europe, usually fine art painters are very serious and very let's put it in this way, very not so fun, right?
Right.
And I come from comic books. I like to laugh. I know I'm just easygoing and stuff. So I was thinking, it would maybe refresh the scene to do fine art seriously, but just taking it easy outside of it.
Right.
So a lot of people follow me because they told me like, oh, it feels good to be with someone who doesn't, overcrowd his attitude somehow.
Yeah.
Just relax. I'm doing something serious, but I'm just
more real.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's what they want.
And after, at some point, I was doing a lot of reels and posts about like art history because I'm really passionate also about like, artists I would discover the stories behind and stuff. So this brought me also many people. And at some point, what brought me really a lot, that made me path from, 20K to like 1,000, is I was in Paris with some friends, Julie, and visiting the Orsay Museum. And at some point, I see this massive but gigantic, I don't know, like 10 meters view of Paris from a hot air balloon. And it's a crazy scene with like little houses, all the Paris view. The painting is unbelievable. It's from Gustave Navelet. That's the name of the artist. And I've never seen it before. And I'm like, what the hell is this? One of the craziest painting I've ever seen. And I just take, a video of it going backward, like, holy shit, right?
Yes.
And on the train back, I'm like, this could be just a cool reels. And I'm hesitating to post it as a story because it's not my art. And I'm like, should I really do a post? But I'm like, the painting is so rad. I need to, show it to the maximum audience possible. So I do a post, and I just put a funny sentence like, when you think you're good at perspective, and then just unzooms to this crazy stuff.
Right.
The reels went 55 million views.
Oh my
gosh. And on TikTok, I don't know how many millions also. The director of Orsay Museum contacts me saying, hello, my name is blah, blah, blah. This is wild. We've never had a painting with that much, attention.
Yeah.
And I'm telling him, yeah, man, if Navle would have known back then that his painting would be seen by 50 million, like even back then, it would be impossible without internet to think that your painting could be. And I was on the news in like so many countries, like, this crazy painting, it was like taking, reposted everywhere.
Yeah.
So this made like a huge boost. And that brought me to 100,000. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting?
It was crazy. Just from a reel,
And when did you do that? How long ago was that?
Probably, I would say 2 years ago.
Is it still on your Instagram?
Yeah, it's still on my Instagram.
How many people have watched it on your Instagram account? Do you know? 55 million?
55 million is the last number from last time I checked.
Yeah, that's a pretty viral video.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's super viral. Yeah. And the guy from Orsay contacted me. That was crazy.
Yeah,
I actually thought about, taking the opportunity to propose him something. And I was like, there are the Olympics in Paris coming soon. What about me painting the exact same view in the same format, but of Paris right now?
Yes.
So we could celebrate Paris with the Olympics.
Yes.
And he said, that's a great idea, but the museum just don't have enough room to put both side by side. Yeah. They said they already struggled for months trying to find the right wall because the piece is just too much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That could take you a year to paint, I would think.
Even more, I think.
Wow.
Yeah,
Let's focus on Western art.
Yeah, back to Western, right?
I see your work is so graphic. I could see it on almost anything and everything. I could see how it would be hard to, keep that under bridle because so many people would want to use it. I could see it for a zillion different things. And I don't know why it is, but it is. And I know it is, and others know it. It seems like one of the things I could see you really doing is prints too for yourself.
I do have a whole, just like Majori, I've got a whole print side of my business that is robust, thriving, and many other words like that. It's something we have. That's why I'm thankful for my wife, Kathy, helping me keep up with that. And I've got a great printer, Canyon Creek Art here in town, who I've been working with for 20 years, and they do my fine art printing and do an incredible job. So yeah, that's a big part of my business.
Yeah, you must get calls all the time for people who want to use your imagery.
Mark, I do, and again, I'm very respectful and thankful when those folks call, and I want to hear their story. But again, I'd say probably 95% of those. Just yesterday, a restaurant group reached out and shared with me what they were doing, and at the end of the day, at the end of the conversation, it was a no, because it wasn't a like-minded. It just, the brands didn't fit.
Right.
And that's the other thing, Mark, is I don't want my work everywhere.
I can understand that completely. Yeah. There's something that can be negative about it if it's everywhere.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I don't want it everywhere. I want to be very wise and discerning and selective with where that art shows up.
Yes. And I can also see that you want it to do fine art. You want things that are in museums and people's collections, and not looked at as, I've seen that image on a side of a, airplane or whatever. So
Yeah.
that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. And I have to be really careful about,
I bet.
I have to steward, I have a responsibility to steward the art well for my collectors, because my collectors now are paying lots of money for these paintings. And so I have to make sure I'm looking out for them,
sure,
as well as myself, but really them, because for the reason you just mentioned, Mark, is that I don't want it showing up everywhere, and I want the places that it is showing up for those collectors to go, oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool. I like that's a cool application. That's a cool way to use that. So
when you started doing this, I know you really came in as far as doing it as a all-time business only a few years ago, maybe three or so years ago, right? As just
probably about 5 or 6 now. Yeah.
Okay, 5 or 6. Yeah. Okay. But when you started, because you've been doing it a while now, because you knew you were going to do it, did you immediately gravitate to this? I would assume it's something you kind of found.
No, great question, Mark. So my initial paintings were more, the look was a more impressionistic, for lack of a better word, more realistic. My work has never not been representational, so there's really no abstract in my art. But in 2018, I had this idea. The words "modern cowboy" came to mind, and it was just something I wrote down on a scratch piece of paper, and I just started to doodle some different cowboy images, but were very bold and graphic. And they were part of a background that really was where the elements were separated. They weren't the painting wasn't all connected like most traditional artists or Western artists and other artists. It's a contiguous thing, right? Everything's connected to everything. Well, this modern cowboy series specifically is this kind of cubic angular approach with different geometrical shapes making up this image, this cowboy or cowgirl. And that was very intentional. So 2018, I did my first modern cowboy image. And again, I have to remember it's been very successful, but I have to remember back then I was scared.
I bet.
Because I was doing something really different, and I was a bit anxious because there was risk involved. And I'm like, okay, I've never seen another Western artist take this approach. Now, there are other Western artists, Ed Melk, for instance, right? Angular, geometric, which, by the way, I'm a huge fan of, as I know you are, of Ed's work, and just a huge fan. And so he has that approach with the angular cubist kind of look, but still it's a contiguous painting, right? Everything's connected, and so I wanted to blow that up and separate things out and make it again this very bold graphic thing that really I have not seen in the world of specifically Western art. And so it really, and again, I was nervous about it, but when I threw it out there, I say threw it out there, I didn't throw it out there. When I started to present it on social media, like on Instagram, my collectors just really were very quickly interested and like, wow, can I come over and see some of these? And how big are these? And so anyway, it became a thing. And so, but no, to answer your question full circle here, now I didn't start out that way.
I wouldn't think so. I would think it would be something that you found, basically. That's generally how all great creative minds work. They're trying to have the gears find where it is, and hopefully when it happens, it snaps, just like it did with Logan Hajesh. I can remember him going from these women figures, and then he he caught something. He realized it and was like, oh, this is here, here. And then it just exploded for him. And
that's what it is this bit. And so inspiration exists, but it must find you working. And I think Picasso may have been the one that coined that phrase, but I've always subscribed, not always, for many, many years, I've subscribed to that theory that inspiration exists, but it must find you working. That's why I'm always working on something. When I say working, I'm always doodling or taking pictures of something or looking in an old 1962 Western Horseman's magazine. I mean, just always exploring and staying curious. And I have to chuckle at the guys who say, man, I'm just waiting for inspiration. I'm like, well, bro, good luck with that. Yeah, it's not going to happen. And so, there's nothing original. Everything's been done, but nobody was paying attention. So it's got to be done again. And so what I've done has been done before, but maybe not in exactly the same way. So I've taken all these influences, just like every single other artist under the sun, taken all these different influences, put them in this big pot, stirred it up, and poured it out. See, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But there's all these, it's Otis Dozier, it's William Lester, it's Everett Spruce, Jerry Bywater's, Texas guys. And it's Maynard Dixon, Remington, Russell, Dunton, all those Western heroes, Paul Rand and Saul Bass, like I mentioned. It's Marsden Hartley and Stuart Davis. I mean, Stuart Davis,
especially
when I first saw his stuff, what's that?
Especially those guys. I love Davies. Yeah. I love Hartley. And I see something that correlates there.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm standing squarely, firmly on those guys' shoulders, big time. And people like Ed Mell as well. I'm standing on their shoulders.
Yeah. Yeah. But it works. I mean, it totally works. Do you do much drawing either? Or do you draw?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would think.
So all of my work originates, heart and head. So it's got to be an idea and it's something that's come to me. And then all of my work starts out as pencil sketches. So I'm sketching and tracing paper, doing overlays and playing with composition, going back and forth. But then once I have a composition that I'm fairly comfortable with, Mark, I'll scan that into my computer. I work on a Mac and I'll scan it into my computer. I'll pull that sketch up into Adobe Illustrator and I'll start to build that sketch out in Adobe Illustrator. Hockney is a great example of somebody who's working digitally and even showing digitally.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that, Cezanne and Picasso, all those guys would have been using the computer in some form or another had it been available then. But so I'm able to do a number of color studies, whereas in the old days when I used to do them by hand, I could do maybe two or three. So now I can do multiples, and that can be good and bad. So, if you get too fussy with it and overwork it, then it can be bad. But if you use it as a tool to get to a place, which is what I do, I get to a place where I've got a color study and a composition that I like, and then I will use that color study as a go-by for my painting.
So you draw it out, manipulate how you want it to kind of work those objects, and then start working with the colors. Once you get that, how you feel comfortable, and you probably know, then you go, okay, now I'm translating this. I go and you paint it.
Exactly. Yeah. And one other trick in there that I'm going to share, I used to just stand with that sketch in one hand and a pencil in another hand and draw on these big canvases. And then it finally hit me one day, what am I doing? I'm recreating something I've already created. So I went online to Etsy or eBay or one of those, and I bought me an old school 1960s overhead projector for a quarter. It cost me $25 to have it shipped, but it cost me a quarter. And so I make transparencies of the sketch I've already done, and I just transfer that image on to the canvas, which makes things so much easier. And It's funny. It's interesting. I thought, well, I'm cheating, but it's like you look back at some of the 13th, 14th, 15th century artists. They were using these convex, concave lenses
Yeah, they were.
in tints to transfer in a dark tint to transfer an image from the outside to the inside onto a canvas. So I thought, okay, I can do that.
Yeah. Well, also you've already made the sketch
Yes.
from hand, right?
Yes.
It's not like you're taking a photograph and putting it on the wall of something you've shot like a butte, but you've actually hand drawn it, come to it, just trying to save the effort to have to redraw. It just speeds up the process a lot.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
I don't think that's cheating at all. I think that's just being a productive, efficient artist.
Yes.
So you can, work harder.
Agreed.
Everyone has their own methods, I've learned. And to me, it's the final image and the creative. I mean, it all comes from your brain. And I mean, all those images that you come up with are ones that you come up with. You know? And it'll be interesting to see, because I'm sure it's happened or will happen. If not, people starting to go, oh, I'm knocking that off.
Oh, it happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see them and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have collectors or followers send me images. Hey, did you see this? Did you see this? And that usually involves a very friendly phone call or text or something, and just say, hey man, thank you so much for, I appreciate that you appreciate my work, but that's, it's one thing to be influenced, it's another thing to rip off.
Yeah.
And some things are just complete rip offs. And so I can see the line between somebody being influenced. I think, Picasso said good artists borrow and great artists steal. Well, he didn't mean they rip off. He just meant they're influenced and they're taking pieces and parts that they like and using those to make up their own look or voice.
Yeah.
So